Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
We begin with breaking news, a fire sending a plume of smoke into the sky, seen for miles. Thank you for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. Firefighters are working on the ground and from the air to put out the flames that erupted off of Fairmont Avenue and Montezuma Road. This is near San Diego State University in the college area. Nearby homes and an elementary school were evacuated as a precaution. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer is live near the fire to give us a closer look. Jacob.
Hi, John. All of this began around 1 to 1:30 earlier this afternoon when flames erupted and started to tear up this hilly, dry landscape. It's kind of like a canyon in here. Immediately, there was a ton of different aerial help that came in. It was helicopters as well as planes, and they tried to protect homes in the area with both water and fire retardant, as well as just getting the fire suppressed. It's being called the Fairmont Fire, and we've also seen dozens of on-ground emergency vehicles respond to the scene, and emergency personnel trying to protect homes in the area. Earlier, we spoke with San Diego Fire Rescue spokesperson Monica Munoz about at the site where the fire took off.
So we have CAL FIRE, Lakeside, we have all kinds of agencies here helping us. And we've got, I can't even tell you how many firefighters we actually have, but they're doing the very strategic drops from the helicopters. You may have seen some of those that are very, very targeted, in addition to the information they're gathering from the air and then sharing it with the crews on the ground to kind of move them around, tell them where to go. We're also doing what's called structure protection. So your standard fire engine, you'll see them spraying water around the edges of canyons, and so that those homes hopefully don't burn.
We've been told from officials on site that the extensive road closures in the area are expected to last through at least midnight, and crews plan to be out here all night long. They stress the importance of listening to evacuation orders, and currently there's an evacuation point at the Allied Gardens Recreation Center. Staff from the Red Cross are there. San Diego Fire Rescue isn't sure if they're going to be letting people back into their homes this evening, but they said they'll be providing an update around 6 p.m. At last check, the fire was still actively burning, and it's burned so far about 40 acres. Back to you, John.
Jacob, thank you. As we mentioned, nearby homes and an elementary school were evacuated. Around 400 students from Hardy Elementary were taken to the football practice field at SDSU. KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen is live in the newsroom now with more on that part of the story. And Alex, I understand you talked to a parent who lives near where the fire started.
That's right, John. P-Pan's Dressler was working from home when he saw the fire across the street from his house. He says he and his wife evacuated immediately, even before the order was issued.
We knew we had to go grab our kid before even we got the text, but I would think for the other parents who was not in the neighborhood, it's probably very much, I don't know what's experience for them, it's probably nerve-wracking.
Stretzer says the traffic was so bad that he had to grab his dog and just walked the rest of the way to pick up his son, and some parents and grandparents had a hard time getting to the pickup spot. Gia Larkin says a dumpster truck caught on fire and causing a bigger backup.
They had Fairmont blocked off, so I was trying to go the back way. That back way was blocked off because a dump truck had caught on fire. So we had to reroute and find a way, and it took quite a bit of time to get here.
And John, as Jacob mentioned earlier, the streets surrounding the fire are closed until at least midnight. MTS says 4 routes are being detoured because of the fire. That's routes 11, 14, 13, 9, 55, and certainly check MTS's website for the latest. For now, live in the newsroom, I'm Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Alex, thank you. We will stay on top of this breaking news and bring you updates as they come in. We are also updating the latest on the fire on our website, kpbs.org.
After a chilly night last night into this morning, we've got another chilly night on tap for us. 52 for that low. Clear skies sticking with us, but we're talking about some changes and includes that chance for maybe a little bit of rain. I'll have the full forecast coming up.
The San Diego City Council is moving to ban software used by landlords to set rental prices. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen explains how supporters argue it amounts to 21st century price fixing.
Some landlords in San Diego subscribe to RealPage, a company that collects private data on rental housing and feeds it through an algorithm to help landlords charge the highest rent possible. The U.S. Department of Justice is suing the company under antitrust laws, though the lawsuit will take years to be resolved. City Council President Sean Rivera says in the meantime, San Diego should declare such algorithms illegal.
Families are unnecessarily being priced out because corporations have replaced compassion with code. Artificial intelligence, sure, they may call it that, but let's call this what it really is: artificial inflation.
A council committee voted to advance the proposal Wednesday. Groups representing landlords and developers opposed the measure, saying it was poorly vetted and that the primary driver of high housing costs is a lack of housing supply.
These are emerging technologies. It's important that the city fully understand these programs, how they work, and who they benefit before implementing a ban.
Rivera has promised the ordinance he's preparing would not affect software that landlords use to simply manage their properties, or software that helps developers determine whether their projects are economically feasible. And he agrees San Diego has to build more housing.
I won't pretend like this law will solve the housing crisis by itself. It won't. We need more housing to be built, especially for low and middle income San Diegans. But that does not mean that we shouldn't do all we can to lower housing costs every way that we can.
The city attorney's office will now start drafting an ordinance that will be brought to the full city council at a future date. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
A bipartisan group of local politicos are denouncing local Republican Assembly candidate Carl DeMaio. KPBS reporter Scott Rodd says they encouraged voters to support his opponent in the race.
In an election year marked by deep political divisions, there is one message that has unified some Republican and Democratic leaders: don't vote for Carl DeMaio. DeMaio is running for the open assembly seat in District 75, which spans most of East San Diego County, including a 50-mile stretch of the U.S.-Mexico border. Half a dozen speakers at the press event criticized DeMaio's campaign tactics and encouraged voters to support his fellow Republican opponent, Andrew Hayes. Lorena Gonzalez is president of the California Federation of Labor Unions and a former Democratic Assembly member.
He is so far out of touch. He has been such an egomaniac and has done such damage to working people.
Meanwhile, Republican County Supervisor Joel Anderson claimed DeMaio's campaign is trying to deceive voters.
When you get a mailer from Carl DeMaio and it says that he's law enforcement's choice, then why didn't he get their endorsement?
DeMaio's campaign declined an interview request. A spokesperson in a text message said the press conference amounted to, quote, a bunch of last-minute false attacks by career politicians and political party operatives. The Republican Party of San Diego County organized the event. Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
For more resources and information on all of the local measures on your ballot, check out the KPBS Voter Hub at kpbs.org. Key reports on inflation, consumer spending, and wages are out this week, with a closely watched monthly jobs report expected tomorrow morning. One top gauge for the Federal Reserve came out today, and as Laura Aguirre reports, it betters the odds you may pay less for a vehicle, home, or a credit card soon.
We will return inflation to 2%.
That was Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell in May, and a new Commerce Department report out this morning shows the needle hovering just a hair above that long-held goal. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, which tracks the prices we as consumers pay, slowed in September from the previous month, coming in at 2.1%, down from August's 2.3%. The PCE, as it's called, is the Fed's preferred inflation gauge and one it primarily uses to make decisions about interest rate cuts. Other notes, personal income up 0.3%, an uptick from August, and people are spending that money at a rate up to 0.5% over the previous month. A separate Labor Department report out today shows companies are mostly hanging on to their workers. Initial unemployment claims dropped by 12,000 new filings the week of October 26th over the prior week. Also in the mix, the weeks-long strike at Boeing, with the company and union leaders still trying to hash out an agreeable contract.
We need to get this wrapped up, back to work and producing aircraft.
It is critical to many parts of the government. This is a key piece of the U.S. economy.
All factors the Fed could consider when it mulls over another rate cut. That meeting happens next week, the day after the presidential election. I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
There's an alphabet soup of sales tax measures on the North County ballot this election. Measures K, I, Q, and X. North County reporters Tanya Thorne and Alexander Nguyen teamed up to explain them.
4 different sales tax measures are being taken up in the North County. Hi, I'm Tanya Thorne.
Each with the goal of generating new funding for different services. Hi, I'm Alexander Nguyen, and we cover the North County.
We'll start with Oceanside, where residents will decide on the renewal of Measure X. That's right, renewal. This is a half-cent sales tax measure that was already approved by voters in 2018 and is set to expire in April 2026. If passed, Measure X would be extended for 10 years. Here's Assistant City Manager Michael Gossman talking about how Measure X has been used already.
We've paved over 500 lane miles of roads. We've added an additional homeless outreach team. We have built a new Fire Station 1, which is just around the corner. It replaced an almost 100-year-old facility.
The tax rate would stay the same, and the money would be used for similar projects. Measure X is supported by Oceanside City Council, the Firefighters Association, and San Diego County Taxpayers Association. But it is opposed by Reform California, which is opposing every tax measure on the ballot, saying none of the money will be spent as promised, and instead would go to bloated city salaries and pensions.
Heading inland, cities of San Marcos and Escondido both have 1-cent sales tax measures on the ballot. Both say they need the extra money to fund essential services such as firefighters and police.
In San Marcos, the city council placed Measure Q on the ballot to raise more revenue for the city services because of population growth. This year, the city needed to cut services to balance the budget.
The San Marcos Fire Department has needed a 5th fire station since around 2017. We've done 2 standards of coverage studies. So as the city has grown, the fire department's call volume has nearly doubled.
And that was Brad Pearson with the San Marcos Fire Department. He says Measure Q will help the city maintain vital public safety services and infrastructure. The San Diego Taxpayers Association endorsed the measure, saying if it doesn't pass, it could affect the quality of life for San Marcos residents.
Measure Q is expected to raise $20 million annually for the next 10 years. It is endorsed by the San Marcos Chamber of Commerce and the San Marcos Professional Firefighters Association. There is no major opposition. Now in Escondido, the 1-cent sales tax measure I started as a citizens' initiative.
The city council voted to place it on the ballot and make it on time for the November elections.
Escondido faces similar challenges as San Marcos, but the root of the problem runs deeper.
For the past few years, the city has been spending more than it gets in taxes. It closed the budget gap by using one-time funding sources and cutting services, but those options have run dry. The Taxpayers Association endorsed the measure, but with an asterisk. Henny Hong is the association's president.
We endorsed it because there's an urgent need. Escondido's cut to the bone here. But we also said that it requires major structural reform in Escondido so that they aren't reliant on this in perpetuity.
Escondido Mayor Dane Weiss says the revenue is needed for critical services, things like basic repairs to storm drains, streets, and sidewalks, as well as emergency services. He says there is no other revenue sources for the city to tap into.
Next year is a little bit frightening. So, we can't just continuously cut our way out of a budget deficit, and this is a way to do that and more.
Measure I is supported by the Escondido Firefighters Association, the Escondido Police Officers Association, and the Escondido Chamber of Commerce. It would sunset in 20 years and is expected to raise $28 million annually.
back on the coast, Encinitas is the next city taking up a new sales tax measure, Measure K.
It is a 1 cent sales tax increase that brings Encinitas' sales tax to 8.75%. It could generate $15 million every year.
The revenue would go towards infrastructure needs, such as beach protection, street and park maintenance, and emergency services. The measure was endorsed by the San Diego County Taxpayers Association. Here's Haney Hong again.
Encinitas has infrastructure to maintain. It gets more expensive for taxpayers if we spend money on it later after things start to go awry.
But there's been some pushback on Measure K. Some residents have concerns about the transparency of how the funds will be spent. Jim O'Hara is a city council candidate for District 2. He thinks the tax could hurt Encinitas businesses.
It takes away a lot of their economic advantage. It causes them to be at a place where they're going to lose customers. It digs into their margins, and it, in the end, will give them fewer customers and less revenue to build off of.
He's also worried about the impact on residents.
We're living in a time where the cost of living is constantly going up here in Encinitas, and piling onto that at this time just doesn't make a lot of sense, especially for our economically challenged here in Encinitas.
Because these sales tax measures are considered a tax increase, they only need a simple majority to pass.
The question is, will voter approve them considering inflation and housing costs? In North County, I'm Alexander Nguyen.
And I'm Tanya Thorne for KPBS News.
Elementary school students in Vista spent Halloween morning visiting local seniors. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says the holiday spirit connected multiple generations.
Oh, darling, you are the best. Isn't she the best? Oh, gosh.
88-year-old Freneva Kellogg lives at Shadow Ridge Senior Living in Vista. She joined residents of Vista Gardens Memory Care to hand out candy to local students.
Oh, look at you. That's Wonder Woman. Come back here.
Doesn't she look great?
Oh, yes. Wonder Woman gets 2 pieces.
I'm all out in my bucket.
I cannot stand it. You're wonderful.
The students visited the residents at several stations around the putting green at Vista Gardens.
Running alive. This is the best place ever in the whole entire world.
First grader Zealand James came dressed as Barbie.
It was so fun because these old people, they're so nice.
The students are in 1st and 3rd grade at Monte Vista Elementary School. To prepare for their visit, they read Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge by Mem Fox.
They read a story that essentially is about a little boy who visits a nursing home, and he helps the residents build memories and recall some of their memories. And so it was a great way to kind of, through literature, introduce to our kids the idea of a care home. And so to have that kind of those deep conversations about who might live in a care home, how might we empathize with people who live in a care home, and how might we be supportive for those people in our community.
Tina Gonzalez is the activities director at Vista Gardens and has a son at the school. She saw an opportunity to bring the two together.
It's really important to have those intergenerational connections because not only does it help them connect to their past memories, but I think it really helps children learn to have compassion and understanding for the changes in life that come, and being able to give them the opportunity to connect is just, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful moment.
The visit ended with a musical performance. Organizers say it's the start of an ongoing connection between the school and the senior communities. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Halloween is a time for exploring the unusual and the unexplained. There are plenty of mysterious things that have a connection to our history. Ken Kramer shows us one that may give you chills in this story about San Diego.
If you worked here every day or night, you might start believing in ghosts, especially if you heard footsteps. Somebody walking, but they're not normal footsteps, no.
20-foot long stride footsteps that will walk back and forth, but not a normal walk. The strides are huge and heavy.
One theory is that somebody or something is haunting the 104-year-old passenger ferry called the Berkeley. Little things like stall doors in the restrooms that strangely latch and lock from the inside when nobody's around. And then there's the man who people report seeing but isn't there.
Up on the upper deck, and it's always out of the corner of your eyes near one of the long runways that are by the doorways there is at the end of the room space.
Jim Davis sometimes shows them this picture from a century ago. They say, that's him, that's what I saw. Who is it? Nobody knows, but many people claim to have seen him, and then they take a second look, and he's gone. One thing is known. Newspaper accounts in 1911 tell of a man who killed himself in one of the restrooms on board. Not clear if it was an accident or he meant to do it. But over the years and the thousands of passengers the Berkeley carried back and forth between San Francisco and Oakland, who knows if some spirit of someone remains? If so, it's okay with Jim Davis.
Keeps the ship alive in many ways.
And also keeps alive a little mystery about San Diego.
As we talk about going forward here through the upcoming days, really the story is about this cool air working in. Now, you've already noticed some chilly nights, and we got another one on tap here tonight. But as we step our way into Saturday, the clouds and the showers return, and this is part of a cooler pattern which will eventually turn dry as we head into next week. So the numbers are going to change a bit on us here. First up tonight, like I said, pretty chilly for your low 52 in the city. Head to Escondido 42. If you're out and about through this evening, I think it's still a very quiet, very clear, honestly a really great night or evening, I should say, to be out and about if you're maybe taking in any festivities. 47 the low for Borrego Springs and Mount Laguna coming down to 38. As we transfer into tomorrow, maybe a few more clouds than what we've had today, but overall still pretty bright. 68 for the high. Escondido coming in at 72, and even Mount Laguna makes it to the mid 50s for the afternoon. But here's where we start to find more of those changes. That comes in Saturday. New cold front pushing its way through the entire western U.S. and this is a pretty powerful system which will bring mountain snow to the Sierra, even some moisture into our region. So I think there's going to be a couple of showers out there. It does look like we'll have at least a few of them. Somebody could squeeze out a quarter to a half inch of rain, maybe even a little better for some of those coastal communities and on the westward side of the mountains here. As we look at those showers, 69 for the high, then we stay in the 70s for Sunday, lower 70s that is. And if you go inland, you'll actually be kind of tapping out in the upper 60s here, not too far off from that as we go into Sunday, but again, a very cool weekend here for us. Watch out for that chance of rain that could be passing its way on through, and be extra cautious on the roadways too. Mountain communities, not too bad here. We will maybe have that chance for a shower in some spots for Saturday, but it does look like you have to be in the right locations to find them. And then Sunday, Monday, we stay cool. Desert communities probably missing out on most of the rainfall from this, so we have a largely dry forecast for Saturday with some extra clouds here. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
We want to get back to our breaking news now. A fast-moving brush fire in the college area has been threatening homes. The fire started off Fairmont Avenue and Montezuma Road near SDSU this afternoon. A school and several homes were evacuated, and road closures backed up traffic in the area. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer is live near the fire with an update for us. Jacob.
Hi, John. Yeah, I kind of want to paint the picture a little bit here. So the hillside behind me, you can see a lot of the different emergency vehicles and fire personnel who are still working to tamp down the flames. And then as we come across the road, while this side doesn't look too bad, the more you move, the more you see the damage from this fire. Completely charred over here on the other side of the road. This is Fairmont Avenue and Montezuma Road. There's been a lot of damage over time, and we do have an update. We're hearing just now that at least 10 homes do have some minor damage on parts like decks, fences, and windows. A reminder, this fire broke out around 1 to 1:30 earlier today, and it really just tore up this landscape here near SDSU. There were aerial drops from helicopters and small aircrafts with both retardant and water. And then what happened later on is that emergency personnel came out to the area to try and protect these homes. Still some damage. What's happening now and that people should be aware about is there is a site for people to go to. That's going to be at Allied Gardens Recreation Center. It's a temporary evacuation point. So for folks who did have to leave, there is somewhere to go.
All right, Jacob, thanks. We will, of course, stay on top of this breaking news. For updates, you can go to our website, kpbs.org. The San Diego County Clerk says today is their second busiest day for weddings. Who knew? KPBS reporter Melissa May was there when one couple took their spooky vows.
Let's go. It's going to be a wonderful ceremony. We have been summoned here today for the hauntingly joyful Halloween to join in marriage Javier to his boo, Paola.
San Diego residents Paola Avila and Javier Machado recited spooky Halloween vows to their boos.
To keep him in sickness and in health, through the happy times and through the terrors, forsaking all others, to be faithful to him until death do you part and beyond.
The newlyweds' favorite holiday is Halloween.
We try to celebrate it, all month long for sure, and we just thought, it's a perfect ending to a great month and to a great year, and we were just, this is gonna be the day. Just knowing that has that extra meaning now, from today going forward, Halloween is gonna be really different to us.
The county clerk expects to perform more than 100 Hallow weddings.
People love the spirit of Halloween. They like the spooky, the excitement, and I'll tell you, sometimes it's scary getting engaged and getting married, but it doesn't have to be at the county waterfront.
The San Diego County Commissioner of Marriages, Jordan Marks, even cast a special script for these ceremonies.
Together, we will write our own hauntingly beautiful story.
We will write our own hauntingly beautiful story.
And the officiants dressed up as well-known performers like Selena, Elton John, and Bruno Mars.
That from this moment on and into eternity, you are now husband and wife united in marriage. Javier, kiss your boo. Congratulations.
Melissa May, KPBS News.
Yes, I'm John Carroll. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.